stories together. He must have told at least 6 stories at the secret society of Twisted Storytellers, veteran Maxie Jones.
I just love classic cars. I love classic cars so much that I just love the Woodward Dream Cruise. And last summer, leading up to the Woodward Dream Cruise, every Saturday I would drive up Woodward and I would park my car and I would just sit there watching all the cars go by. And quite often there would be people in their cars next to me, and we would talk about the cars, we would compare notes and laugh and joke and all that stuff. Every Saturday leading up to the Dream Cruise. And one particular Saturday, while I was there was a group of people in the car next to me. And we got to talking, and we talked, and we laughed, and we talked about cars, and we were having a great time. And suddenly one guy reached in the car, and he pulled out a bottle. And he was like, "Hey man, you want some of this?" And I said, "No thanks." Because you see, on April 27th, we'll make 14 years since the last time I've ever had a drink. So we just continued watching cars and having a great time. And then one of the women in the group reached in her purse and put out a can of marijuana gummies. She said, "Well, do you want some of this?" I said, "No, thank you." But then I thought, I've been quite curious about those things. And it ain't like drinking. I wouldn't mind having a buzz like the rest of these people. So I said, "Hey, you know what? I will try one of those." She said, "You never tried these before?" I said, "Never had one before." She said, "Okay, well, you better take just a half." So I ate the half, and she said, "You're gonna feel it in 20 minutes. I was like, "All right." So we started watching cars again, and it didn't take her 20 minutes, and she was like, "Ha, ha, 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 ha. Do you feel it?" "No." "Don't worry, you're gonna feel it." We were watching cars more. I remember checking out the 1974 Deuce and a Quarter. Y'all know the Deuce and a Quarter. Buick Electra 225. I was checking that out. Next thing I knew, like an hour had passed. I was like, "Hey, something must be wrong with these things because I don't feel nothing." And they were like, "Oh man, well you're a kind of big guy. Maybe you got a big tolerance or something, man. You should probably took a whole one." They said, "You want another half?" I was like, "Man, forget that half shit, man. Let's double the dose. Give me a whole one." They're like, "All right." They gave me a whole one. I chewed it. Started looking at some more cars. A whole group of DeLoreans came by. I was like, "Oh shit, man. All them DeLoreans. Damn, another half hour. I ain't feel nothing." Herbie the Love Bug, y'all. Checking it out. Another hour. I ain't feel nothing. Next thing you know, the classic car traffic started to come few and far between. It was just like regular cars, and I was like, "Y'all know what? I think I'm gonna get out of here now." And they were like, "Yeah, we gonna get out of here too." And one guy was like, "Can somebody give me a ride?" And everybody else was like high or drunk. So I was like, "Well, come on, I'll give you a ride." "Where you going?" "Dearborn." I'm driving the guy to Dearborn, and we talking. And I was like, "Yo, man, I used to have me a Buick Electra. It was a 78, so they didn't call it a Deuce and a Quarter. It was just a Buick Electra. It was real nice." I was describing it to him. He was like, "Yeah, that sounded like a real nice car." I was like, "Yeah, it was nice, man. I wonder why them gummies never kicked in." He said, "I don't know. You must have a real good tolerance." I don't know. Dropped the guy off. He got out of my car. Now I'm headed home. I'm east on I-94. It's about a good 2.5 hours after the gummies, and I'm just driving, and all of a sudden, boom! I was driving, I was like, whoa, shit. The highway turned into a roller coaster all of a sudden. I was like, oh, shit. I was scared I was gonna fall off. I was trying to stay within the lines. The white lines got skinnier and skinnier. My car got bigger and bigger, like a starship. I was like, oh, shit. And I was trying to stay in the middle of the road so I wouldn't fall off the road. I stayed in the middle and I was driving real slow. Some guy pulled up next to me and was like, get the fuck out the middle of the road. I was like, yeah, all right. I looked to see when the next exit, and it probably said like a half mile. But you know how down south the next exit be like, that's what it felt like. The next exit was like 20 miles. I was like, oh shit, I gotta get to the next exit. And the voice in my head was like, you are not gonna get to the next exit. You're gonna just fucking die. I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. I finally made it to the next exit and pulled off the highway. I pulled off and got out the car for a minute. I was like, oh shit. And I put on my GPS to take me home via local streets. Not because I didn't know the way home, but because I just couldn't remember shit. I looked to see where I was. I looked at the street sign. I was like, Livernois? What the fuck is that? So I got in my car, was driving home. GPS was taking me home. I called home. I called my lady, Jessica. I said, Jessica, I took some gummies and I'm gonna die. She said, where you at? I said, I don't know. I'm following the GPS. I'm gonna get home. She said, well, pull over. I'll come get you. I was like, I can't. She said, why? I said, because I'm gonna die before you get here. So I'm gonna just try to make it home. I kept driving, listening to the GPS. And every once in a while, I'll look up and be like, okay, all right, I recognize this intersection. It was like Warren and Gratiot. I'm like, okay, I know where I am. I'm almost home. And the voice was like, you are not gonna get home. You're gonna fucking die. I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna die before I get home. And every time a car passed, I was like, oh shit, that's the car that's gonna take me out. That's it, it's coming. I finally made it home and pulled in my driveway. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh shit, I made it. Thank God I made it. Thank you, God, thank you. Whew. I walked in my house, Jessica was like, I can't wait to hear the story behind this. Because see, prior to that, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't even drink like sweet drinks, I don't eat sweets, nothing. What the hell would make you take a gummy? I said, look, I'll tell you, but right now, I just want to lay down. She was like, go ahead. I went and I laid down. I started drifting off to sleep. And while I was drifting off to sleep, the voice in my head said, you know you wasn't supposed to make it home, right? How'd you make it home? You know what? Since you weren't supposed to make it home, you might as well just get up and go kill yourself. Oh shit, kill myself. I was walking around, I was like, kill myself. I was like, I gotta go somewhere where I can't kill myself. So I was like, do I call the cops, let them put me in jail? Go to hospital? I chose the hospital. I was like, Jessica, I need you to take me to the hospital. She was like, for what? I said, I'm thinking about suicide. She's like, all right, let's go. We went to the hospital. When I was checking in the ER, the lady says, what brings you here this evening? I looked around to make sure nobody was listening. I said, I ate some gummies. And now I'm tripping. She's like, all right, just go over to the next window. I went over to the next window, and Jessica came behind me to this lady and was like, excuse me, miss, but he didn't tell you the truth. That motherfucker's talking about suicide. She was like, oh, really, huh? They never tell the truth when they get here, do they? But either way, they didn't have a bed for me or anything like that, so we just waited in the waiting area. We waited there for hours. And while I'm sitting in the waiting area, the voice in my head is like, you know, you're just gonna die sitting in this chair. You're gonna die for no fucking reason at all. You're just gonna die sitting right here. And I was looking at people, I was like, man, that guy's gonna see me die. A lady walked in, I was like, she's gonna watch me die. And I was like, is this how I'm going out? Fucking gummy? I should have just took a drink. So I'm sitting there, and then I'm looking at Jessica, and she's there, she's doing something on her phone, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, well, if I'm gonna die, I better delete all this shit on my phone. I pulled out my phone, I started deleting contacts, pictures, hidden pictures. It was like, you don't want them to see all this secret fraternity shit, right? No, I deleted all this secret fraternity shit. Just deleted everything. So no one would see it. I was like, because I figured if I die, she's going to take my phone. Next thing I knew, the sun was coming up, and I felt the high wearing off. And I was like, oh shit, Jessica, let's get out of here. She's like, you sure? Let's just wait a little while longer. I was like, nah, let's get out of here. She said, all right, so we went home. Now, every weekday morning on my way to work, about 7:30, I have a conference call with two of my sisters. We've been doing this for years. Three of us, we talk on the phone as I'm on my way to work. That Monday morning, I was talking on the phone to two of my sisters, and one of my sisters said, hey, Maxie, I felt something in my spirit Saturday night. Are you okay? And see, the thing is, she's never been wrong about that. I've always had to come clean. So I said, yeah, I'm okay, but, and I had to tell him about the gummies, and I told him about the trip to the ER, and I told him about the suicide. I had to tell him everything. So she was like, I knew it. Because I woke up Sunday morning and I said, what am I going to do without my brother? Sorry. Now, I thought that the drug was finished with me, but it wasn't. Because a couple of days later, I was in the shower. And I was just in the shower. And everything's clean, and the drug was like, so you thought you're free? You think you're free now, huh? You think you're free? You just walk around like everything's all right, huh? Well, you're going to die now. And I just went into a panic attack. Never had a panic attack before in my life. Went into a panic attack. 911 was called. EMTs came to the house, took my blood pressure and all that. I was fine by that time, so they didn't take me away. When they were leaving, Jessica said, you sure you don't want to go with them? I was like, no, I'm okay. She said, all right, because don't let them leave and I have to call the cops on your ass. I was like, no, I'm okay. Now, that following weekend was the actual dream cruise. And I didn't want to say I was going to dream cruise, so I just told one of my sons, I was like, Malcolm, come on with me. We're going to go somewhere. Jessica said, where you going? I was like, all right. I told her. She was like, I was like, listen. I wouldn't take a gummy if the doctor prescribed it. So my son and I went to the dream cruise. We had a great time. Everything was fine. Nothing happened. Everything was all fine. Everything was all fine after that. But then the next week, I was downstairs in the basement working from home, and I finished an assignment, and I leaned back in the chair. I was like, I'll just go ahead and go commit suicide now. And I was like, what? What? Did I say that shit? I was like, wait a minute. And that's when I said to myself, I was like, okay, Maxie, you are suicidal. And I started asking myself, do I need to go check myself in somewhere? Is this shit supposed to happen from taking a gummy? You see, this is how I feel, right? If I die from some shit like this, I mean, look, I've done enough stupid shit in my life that I could have died from. And to die from something like this would be like the most idiotic. So the way I felt is like, if I die from something like this, I want to be the last one. So I said, you know what I do? I called all my closest friends and family members, and I told them everything. I said, listen, if you ever hear that something happened to me, I just want you to know that this is what happened, so that they'll know. And I was quite open about it, actually. Everywhere except at work. But I was quite open about it. And you know, of course, there's those people you wish you never told, right? Oh man, that shit happened to me too. I was tripping for 3 days, sitting on the toilet, talking to a unicorn and shit. And then there's suicide? Shit, don't we all consider suicide every once in a while? But I still told my closest loved ones. But then there was like my friend Cheryl. I called my friend Cheryl. She's a friend of mine from college. Cheryl was in Croatia at the time that I called her. And it was 4 o'clock in the morning her time. And I called her. You see, the thing is this. When I call people to tell them about this, I feel quite weak and needy. And I hate to feel that way. And I hate to have to lean on people like that. But I was in a fight for my life. So I had to put that aside because I wanted to live. So I was calling people. And Cheryl was like, listen, I don't care where I am in the world or what time it is, you call me. You hear me? And my friend Chris was like, I love you, man. I love you, man. You just fucking called me. You hear me? And that's what I started to hear. I love you, Maxie. I love you. Call me. From people who never said it before. I love you. Call me. My 2 sons are 10 and 12. And I told them, I said, listen, Daddy did something really stupid. And this is the effect it's having on me. And I told them this because I want them to never want to try it. Look, I'm paying the price. And let alone if I pay the ultimate price. But this way, you would never want to try it. And I told them. Now, like I said, they're only 10 and 12. So it was like, well, what kind of drug was it, Daddy? Who gave it to you, Daddy? Why'd you take it? I answered all those questions. But then after a while, the look of disappointment on their face told me, see, Daddy, you did something really stupid. And we might not have a father because of it. The episodes kept coming. And so the thing about suicide for me is this. In that moment, I can't think of a logical reason not to kill myself. I wish I could think about my sons and think about how I would hate to leave them alone without a dad. But I can't think that up in that moment. Every episode, no matter how long it lasted, it might be 20 minutes, might be just a quick 5 minutes, but however long it lasted, I had to survive it. And I had to do whatever I needed to do to survive it. And so sometimes, it was like a battle between me and me. You get what I mean? I was like, I love myself. I love myself. I don't want to kill myself. I love myself. The fuck am I doing with this knife? Then there were other times I called friends 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, they always answered the phone. Always. I thought a lot about Robin Williams, one of the most well-known suicides. A lot of people always ask, well, why would somebody who can have anything he wants want to kill himself? And I learned that sometimes it ain't got nothing to do with whether you're happy or sad. I know for me, I learned that self-sabotage had been embedded in me for quite some time. And that drug just brought it to the surface. That's what it did. I often wonder if Robin Williams had so many people to call like I did, or if that even mattered. It's been a while now. It's been some months. I haven't had any episodes of suicide. I think it's behind me, actually. Last week, I made a trip to New York for a friend's birthday party. And, well, that's where I'm from, by the way. I'm from New York. And I went to New York, and the thing is that I've found that I've always been traveling. I'm always traveling home for funerals, to bury people. But now, I celebrate life. I'm all about life and living. And so that's why I made that trip. While I was there, I made it a point to make my rounds to all those people who answered the phones, to give them a hug. Some of them, they came out because it's New York and you can't find a place to park. So some of them, I would say, come downstairs. And they would come downstairs, and I would get out the car, give them a hug, stand there maybe 5 minutes, and get back in the car and go to the next place. And what I realized was that for some of them, they thought there was a possibility that they'd never see me again. So while I'm so happy to see them and want to hug them, they were so happy to see me. And like seeing me was like a gift to them. It's like a gift for the work you've done. I'm alive. And you better believe that this coming summer, I will be out there at the Woodward Dream Cruise. Because I make it a point these days to do what I love, whatever that is. Because from that experience, I learned you can take great care of your health, but you don't have any idea what's going to take you out or when. Suicide is a place you go in your head. And it's difficult to go somewhere and then ungo there. You know, you can't, you can, but it's like it's difficult to unthink a thought. And that's the work that I'm faced with, to not go there or to not think that. I've never had to work this hard mentally, but this is what I do. But every time I think about it, and every time I remember that place, I thank God. I thank God for the fact that I love myself, that I love myself enough to battle with myself in those moments. And I thank God for those people who loved me and who were there and who did so much to save my life. And I know for sure that it was that love that saved my life. Thank you.
Maxie Jones.